Commander Sarah Chen stood at the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest warship, watching the massive alien vessel approach through the viewscreen. The ship's sleek, crystalline structure seemed to defy physics itself, its hull rippling with waves of iridescent energy. After centuries of wondering if we were alone in the universe, humanity was about to make first contact. Energy readings are off the charts, Commander. Lieutenant Rivera reported from his station, dark eyes fixed on the holographic displays floating before him. Their power output exceeds our entire fleet combined. Sarah nodded, maintaining her composure despite the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. The Defiant might be humanity's most advanced ship, but compared to the alien vessel, it probably looked like a rowboat next to an aircraft carrier. "Open a channel," she ordered, straightening her uniform. "Let's introduce ourselves." The alien ship responded immediately, and a hologram materialized on the bridge. The being that appeared was tall and ethereal, with silvery skin that seemed to flow like mercury and multiple sets of eyes arranged in a geometric pattern across its face. When it spoke, its words were translated by the neural interface technology Earth had developed for just this moment. "I am High Admiral Vex Terry of the Galactic Confederation," the alien announced, its tone carrying what Sarah could only interpret as barely concealed condescension. "We have been monitoring your species development for some time now. Your achievement of faster-than-light travel, crude as it may be, has qualified you for initial contact." Sarah bit back a sharp retort. "Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Defiant, we welcome the opportunity for peaceful dialogue and cultural exchange." The alien's eyes shifted in a pattern that might have been amusement. "Indeed. Though I must say we find it rather quaint that you still rely on kinetic weaponry. Most civilized species abandon such primitive tools once they discover energy weapons." Sarah's tactical officer, Major James O'Neill, tensed at his station. The Defiant's railguns were his pride and joy, each capable of accelerating projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. "Our weapons are quite effective for our needs, Admiral." "Of course they are," Vex Terry replied with what was definitely amusement now. "Just as stone spears were once effective for hunting prey. But you'll soon learn that in civilized space, such antiquated approaches have no place." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared across both ships. A massive spatial distortion was forming nearby, and through it emerged a nightmare. The ship that appeared was organic, more like a massive space-dwelling creature than a vessel, its surface covered in chitinous plates and writhing tentacles. "Impossible," Vex Terry whispered, their composure cracking. "The Ravagers are a myth, a story to frighten children." The organic ship fired, launching what looked like crystalline spores toward both vessels. They impacted against the Confederation ship's energy shields, and to Sarah's horror, began to eat through them like acid through paper. "High Admiral," Sarah called out, her training kicking in. "Your shields appear to be failing. Our sensors show those crystals are generating some kind of quantum resonance that's disrupting your defense field." "Our weapons are having no effect," Vex Terry reported, their earlier condescension replaced by growing panic. "Their bio-armor absorbs energy weapons completely." Sarah exchanged a quick look with Major O'Neill, who was already plotting firing solutions. "Permission to assist, Admiral. Our primitive weapons might surprise you." There was a moment of hesitation, then, "Granted, Commander. Show us what your quaint kinetic weapons can do." Major O'Neill, target their main weapon clusters with tungsten penetrators. "Full acceleration," Sarah ordered, a grim smile touching her lips. "Let's show our new friends how humans hunt." The Defiant's railguns roared to life, launching specially designed projectiles at relativistic speeds. The round struck the organic ship's bio-armor and did what energy weapons could not. They penetrated. Physics was physics, after all, and no amount of energy absorption could negate the pure kinetic force of a tungsten rod moving at an appreciable percentage of light speed. The Ravager ship reeled, purple ichor spraying from its wombs into the void of space. Its return fire went wild, missing both ships entirely. Second salvo, targeting their propulsion clusters, O'Neill called out, his fingers dancing across his console. Firing. Another barrage of hypervelocity rounds tore into the organic vessel, this time severing several of its tentacle-like propulsion appendages. The creature ship writhed in apparent agony, trying to turn away from the assault. Their bio-armor is regenerating, Rivera reported, but not fast enough to keep up with the damage. Sarah keyed her comm. Admiral Vextari, if you can reconfigure your energy weapons to target our impact points, we might be able to prevent their regeneration. The Confederation ship's weapons changed tune, now focusing precise beams of energy on the wounds the railgun rounds had created. The combined assault proved too much for the Ravager vessel. With a silent explosion that seemed to ripple through subspace itself, the organic ship detonated, scattering fragments of its bio-armor across the battlefield. Silence fell over the Defiance bridge, broken only by the steady beeping of sensors monitoring the debris field. The hologram of Admiral Vextari flickered, their multiple eyes fixed on Sarah, with what she could now recognize as respect. "It seems, Commander Chen," the Admiral said slowly, "that we may have been hasty in our assessment of your technology. Perhaps there is something to be said for maintaining ties to one's more primitive roots." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Admiral, I suspect humanity and the Confederation have a great deal to learn from each other. After all, it wasn't just our kinetic weapons that won this battle. It was combining them with your energy weapons in a way neither of us had considered before." "Indeed," Vextari agreed, "and I fear we may need more such innovations in the near future. If the Ravagers are real, and they've returned, the galaxy may be facing a threat unlike anything we've seen in millennia." As Sarah looked at the debris field that had once been a mythical horror, she knew humanity's first steps into the galactic community would not be easy ones, but they had already proven that they had something valuable to contribute, something that went beyond just technology. The human gift for thinking outside the box, for combining the old with the new in unexpected ways. "We'll face it together, Admiral," she said firmly. "That's another human trait you might find interesting. We're very good at making allies out of former adversaries when facing a common threat." The first contact hadn't gone anything like the scenarios they'd trained for at the Academy. But as Sarah watched her crew working to collect data on the Ravager ship's remains, she knew they had achieved something far more valuable than a simple diplomatic exchange. They had earned respect, not through words, but through action. And if the Ravagers were truly returning, that respect might just be the foundation for humanity's survival in a galaxy that had suddenly become much more dangerous and much more interesting than anyone had imagined. 3 weeks after the first Ravager encounter, Commander Sarah Chen found herself standing in a vast chamber aboard the Confederation's flagship, the Eternal Radiance. The room was filled with holographic displays showing real-time updates from across known space, and none of them brought good news. 17 colonies lost in the past week alone. High Admiral Vextari announced to the assembled military leaders, their mercury-like skin rippling with distress. The Ravagers aren't just attacking random targets. They're following a pattern, cutting off supply lines and isolating strategic positions. Sarah studied the tactical display, noting the systematic way the Ravagers were advancing. "They're not mindless beasts," she observed. "This is coordinated military strategy." "Agreed," rumbled General Kvax, a massive reptilian being from the Confederation's outer territories. "But our energy weapons remain nearly useless against their bio-armor. Only your human kinetic weapons seem to have any real effect." "Unfortunately, we don't have enough ships equipped with railguns to defend every target," Sarah replied, frustration evident in her voice. The UEAst, Defiant, and a handful of other human vessels had been spread thin trying to respond to Ravager attacks. A soft chime interrupted the discussion as new data streamed in. The holographic display zoomed in on a distant sector where a massive spatial distortion was forming. What emerged from it made Sarah's blood run cold. By the eternal stars, Vex Terry whispered. That's not a ship, it's a hive. The structure that appeared dwarfed anything Sarah had ever seen, a writhing mass of bioorganic matter larger than Earth's moon. Countless smaller Ravager ships were emerging from it, like insects from a nest. Location, Sarah demanded. The Arcturus sector, Kavax replied grimly. Less than 50 light-years from Earth. Sarah felt her hands clench into fists. The Ravagers weren't just launching random attacks. They were preparing for a full-scale invasion, and Earth was clearly one of their primary targets. Admiral Vex Terry, she said, her mind racing with possibilities. What if we could adapt our technologies more broadly? Not just combining weapons, but merging our different approaches to space combat entirely. The Admiral's geometric eyes shifted in a pattern Sarah had learned to recognize as intense interest. Explain. The Confederation has perfected energy manipulation, quantum fields, and faster-than-light travel. Humanity has pushed the boundaries of material science, kinetic weapons, and analog backup systems. What if we created a true hybrid fleet, taking the best of both approaches? A bold proposal, Kavax rumbled. But can it be done quickly enough? That hive will reach populated space within days. It has to be, Sarah insisted, and I have an idea where to start. Hours later, Sarah stood in the Eternal Radiance's massive engineering bay, watching as human and Confederation engineers worked together to modify the flagship's systems. Her chief engineer, Dr. Maya Patel, was deep in discussion with a group of alien technicians, their hands moving through holographic schematics as they figured out how to integrate human railgun technology with the ship's quantum power core. The power requirements are immense, Maya explained. But if we route it through these crystalline matrices, we can achieve launching velocities far beyond what our standard railguns can manage. And by coating the projectiles with a layer of the same energy-reactive material used in Confederation shields, the kinetic impact would be enhanced by an energy burst on contact. One of the alien engineers finished, their crystalline form glowing with excitement. Brilliant. Sarah smiled, remembering how recently these same Confederation members had dismissed human technology as primitive. Now they were working side by side, each bringing their unique perspectives to solve an unprecedented threat. A sudden alert drew everyone's attention to the main displays. The Ravager hive had changed course, accelerating faster than anyone had predicted. New spatial distortions were forming around it. They're preparing to jump, Vex Terry announced, their voice tense. Multiple signatures. They're calling in more hives. How long until the modifications are ready? Sarah asked Maya. We've got the prototype hybrid weapons installed on the Eternal Radiance, but we haven't had time to test them properly. The power integration is theoretical at best. Sarah looked at the tactical display, watching as more Ravager ships emerged from the growing spatial rifts. They were out of time. Admiral, she said, turning to Vex Terry, permission to take tactical command of the Eternal Radiance. I have a plan, but it's going to require combining human combat tactics with Confederation technology in ways neither of us has tried before. The Admiral's multiple eyes studied her for a long moment before they responded. The flagship of the Confederation fleet has never been commanded by a non-member species. They paused, watching another swarm of Ravager ships emerge from the rifts. Until now. The bridge is yours, Commander Chen. As Sarah strode onto the bridge of the most powerful ship in known space, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Around her, human and alien crew members worked together, preparing for what could be the most important battle any of them had ever faced. All hands, battle stations, she ordered, her voice carrying across both human and Confederation communication channels. Today we prove that our greatest strength isn't in our individual technologies or traditions, but in our ability to adapt and work together. The Eternal Radiance's hybrid weapons powered up, humming with a combination of human and alien engineering that had never existed before. As the first wave of Ravager ships approached, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Let's show them what happens when humanity and the Confederation truly unite. The eternal radiance hung in space like a sword of light, its crystalline hull now bristling with modified human railgun arrays. Commander Sarah Chen stood at its command center, watching as the massive Ravager hive approached through the quantum-enhanced sensors. Multiple bioships launching from the hive structure, reported KVAX from the tactical station. They're arranging themselves in attack formations we haven't seen before. They're learning, Sarah observed, studying the patterns, just like we are. She turned to Maya at the engineering station. Status of the hybrid weapons. Power integration is holding steady, Maya replied, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. The crystalline matrices are successfully channeling energy to the railgun arrays. But, Commander, we still don't know if the containment fields will hold at full power. Sarah nodded grimly. They were about to push both human and Confederation technology far beyond their designed limits. We won't know until we try, and we're out of time for testing. The first wave of Ravager ships accelerated toward them, their bioorganic forms shifting and morphing into attack configurations. Behind them, the hive pulsed with an otherworldly energy, launching more ships with each beat. All stations, Combat Protocol Alpha, Sarah commanded. Maya, begin power-up sequence for the hybrid weapons. KVAX, plot firing solutions using the new targeting algorithms. The eternal radiance hummed with power as human and alien technology synchronized. The ship's quantum core, normally used to power energy weapons and shields, now fed into the modified railgun arrays through crystalline conduits that Maya and her team had designed. First wave entering effective range in 30 seconds, KVAX announced. Their bio-armor is already adapting, showing signs of enhanced energy absorption. They remember our last encounter, Sarah said, but they haven't seen everything we can do. Maya, activate the phase shift modifications on the projectiles. Phase shift active, Maya confirmed. The quantum field is stable, for now. The Ravager ships opened fire first, launching salvos of their crystalline spores. They impacted against the eternal radiance's enhanced shields, but this time, the quantum-reinforced barriers held. Return fire, Sarah ordered. All hybrid weapons, full power. The ship shuddered as the modified railguns fired. Each projectile, now encased in a quantum field and accelerated by both kinetic and energy-based systems, crossed the space between the ships in milliseconds. When they struck the Ravager vessels, the result exceeded even Sarah's expectations. The phase-shifted projectiles penetrated the bio-armor as if it wasn't there, then rematerialized inside the ships. The quantum fields collapsed on impact, releasing their stored energy in devastating explosions that ripped the Ravager ships apart from the inside. Direct hits. KVAX roared in triumph. Their adaptive armor couldn't compensate for the phase shift. But the victory was short-lived. The hive structure pulsed again, and the remaining Ravager ships began to change. Their bio-armor grew thicker, developing layers that rippled with strange energies. They're adapting faster than we predicted, Maya warned. Power consumption for the phase shift is increasing. We can't maintain this level of fire for long. Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind racing. The Ravagers were intelligent, capable of evolving their defenses in real time. But that adaptation required energy and biomass. Maya, can you modify the quantum field to create a cascade effect? She asked. Something that would trigger a chain reaction in their bioorganic systems. Maya's eyes lit up with understanding. Yes. If we adjust the field frequency to match their biological resonance, we could turn their own adaptive abilities against them. But we'd need to hit the hive directly for maximum effect. The hive's defenses are too strong, KVAX objected. We'd never get a clear shot. We won't need one, Sarah said, a plan forming. Their ships are all connected to the hive through some kind of quantum biological network. That's how they adapt so quickly. If we can infect just one ship with the modified field, it would carry the cascade effect back to the hive through their own network. Maya finished. Commander, that's brilliant. But we'll only get one shot at this. The power requirements would burn out our hybrid systems completely. Sarah looked at the tactical display again. The Ravager ships were regrouping, preparing for another assault. Behind them, the hive continued to pulse, launching more vessels with each beat. Everything hinged on this one chance. "Begin modifications," she ordered. "Kavax, target the smallest ship in their formation. The less mass it has to adapt with, the better our chances of overwhelming its systems." The next few minutes were tense as Maya and her team reconfigured the hybrid weapons. The Ravager fleet held position, as if sensing something was about to change. Sarah could almost feel their alien intelligence studying the eternal radiance, trying to predict what the combined human and Confederation forces would do next. "Modifications complete," Maya announced. "Hybrid weapons reconfigured. But Commander, firing this will burn out every crystalline matrix in the system. We'll be defenseless." Sarah nodded. "Better to be defenseless than dead. All power to the hybrid weapons. Kavax, do you have your target? Locked and ready." The massive alien confirmed. "Awaiting your command." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Everything they'd worked for, everything they'd learned about combining their technologies and strategies, came down to this one shot. Fire. The modified projectile streaked across space, its quantum field rippling with unstable energy. On the bridge of the eternal radiance, Sarah Chen and her crew watched in tense silence as it approached its target. The smallest Ravager ship made no attempt to evade, likely assuming its bio-armor would adapt as it had before. That was its final mistake. The projectile struck, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the quantum field collapsed, releasing its cascade effect directly into the ship's biological systems. The vessel convulsed, its bio-armor rippling with chaotic energy as the cascade began. "It's working," Maya exclaimed, her eyes fixed on the sensor readings. "The quantum cascade is spreading through their network." The effect spread like a virus through the Ravager fleet. Ship after ship began to convulse as their own adaptive abilities turned against them, each attempt to evolve only accelerating the cascade effect. The massive hive structure pulsed erratically, its rhythm disturbed by the spreading chaos. But victory came at a price. Throughout the eternal radiance, crystalline matrices shattered, overloaded by the massive energy discharge. The ship's lights flickered and died, leaving only emergency systems functioning. "All weapons offline," Kavax reported grimly. "Shields at critical levels, if any of them survive." "Look," Sarah pointed at the main display, where the Ravager hive was undergoing a massive transformation. Its surface writhed and buckled as the cascade effect reached its core. Massive energy discharges erupted from its surface, each one triggering new mutations that only accelerated the breakdown. "The hive's biological systems are caught in a feedback loop," Maya explained, her voice filled with wonder. "Each adaptation triggers a new cascade, which forces another adaptation. They can't stop it." The hive structure began to break apart, massive chunks of bioorganic matter tearing away as internal explosions ripped through its core. The remaining Ravager ships, their systems compromised by the cascade effect, began to disintegrate. But Sarah's relief was short-lived. "Maya, what's our status?" "Bad. The hybrid weapons system is completely burned out. Most of our power conduits are fried. We're operating on backup systems only, and those won't last long." "Commander," Kavax interrupted, his voice urgent. "Long-range sensors are detecting multiple spatial distortions. More hives incoming." Sarah felt her heart sink. They had won this battle, but at the cost of their only effective weapon. The eternal radiance, pride of the Confederation fleet, was now little more than a drifting hulk. Then a new voice crackled over the comm system. "Eternal radiance, this is Captain Marcus Wong of the UES Challenger. Hold position. Reinforcements have arrived." Through the quantum rifts emerged not more Ravager hives, but a combined fleet of human and Confederation vessels. Each ship had been modified with the same hybrid technology. their hulls bristling with enhanced railgun arrays. "Sorry we're late to the party," Marcus continued, a smile evident in his voice. "But we needed time to upgrade the fleet. Dr. Patel's designs have been transmitted to shipyards across both human and Confederation space. We're mass-producing hybrid weapons as we speak." Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Captain Wong, your timing is impeccable. The remaining hives are changing course," Kovacs reported, his voice rising with excitement. "They're retreating." The bridge erupted in cheers, human and alien voices joining together in celebration. Sarah felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see Admiral Vextari, their mercury-like skin glowing with what she now recognized as pride. "Commander Chen," the Admiral said, their multiple eyes arranged in a pattern of deep respect. "Today you have proven something that many of us had forgotten. True strength lies not in the power of our weapons or the advancement of our technology, but in our ability to overcome our preconceptions and work together." Sarah nodded, watching as the combined fleet moved into defensive positions around the damaged flagship. "That's the real lesson here, isn't it? The Ravagers were powerful because they could adapt, but they could only adapt alone. We proved that different species working together, combining their knowledge and approaches, can create something greater than the sum of its parts." "Indeed," Vextari agreed. "The Confederation has existed for millennia, but perhaps we had become too set in our ways, too convinced of our own superiority. It took a young species with primitive weapons to show us that there is always more to learn." Through the viewport, Sarah watched as repair ships approached the Eternal Radiance, their crews already working to restore power and rebuild the damaged systems. But they weren't just repairing the ship, they were improving it, incorporating the lessons learned from this battle to make it stronger. "We should get to work," she said, turning back to her crew. "The Ravagers will be back, and next time they'll have adapted to this strategy. We need to be ready." "And we will be," Maya added, already pulling up new schematics on her partially functioning console. "I have some ideas for improving the quantum cascade effect, maybe finding a way to generate it without burning out our systems." As human and alien crew members gathered around to contribute their own ideas and insights, Sarah felt a surge of hope. They had done more than win a battle today. They had forged a true partnership between their civilizations, one based on mutual respect and the recognition that diversity of thought and approach was not a weakness, but their greatest strength. 3 months after the Battle of the Hive, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Confederation Council. The vast chamber, with its soaring crystalline spires and quantum-enhanced acoustics, was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. But today, all eyes were on the small delegation from Earth. The Eternal Radiance had been fully repaired and upgraded, now serving as a symbol of what humans and the Confederation could achieve together. Its hybrid technology had become the standard across both fleets, and joint research teams were making breakthroughs daily in combining their different approaches to science and warfare. High Admiral Vextari approached the central podium, their mercury-like skin reflecting the chamber's ambient light. "Members of the Council, honored representatives of Earth, we are gathered here to mark a historic moment. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Confederation Charter is being amended." Sarah felt Maya squeeze her arm in excitement. They both knew what was coming, but hearing it declared officially made it real. "Humanity has proven itself not just worthy of membership in the Confederation," Vextari continued, "but deserving of a special status. Their unique perspective, their ability to innovate and adapt, and their willingness to challenge established thinking have demonstrated that age and technological advancement alone do not determine a species' value to our community." The Admiral's multiple eyes shifted to focus on Sarah. "Commander Chen, step forward." Sarah approached the podium, her dress uniform crisp and perfect. Around her, the assembled representatives watched with intense interest. "In recognition of humanity's contributions and your personal role in saving not just the Confederation, but perhaps all sentient life from the Ravager threat, We hereby establish the Office of Innovation and Integration. You will serve as its first director, with a mandate to continue fostering the kind of collaboration that proved so crucial in our hour of need. Sarah accepted the crystalline badge of office, its surface rippling with the same quantum energy that now powered their hybrid weapons. Thank you, Admiral. But the credit belongs to everyone who was willing to look past their preconceptions and work together. Humans aren't special because we're more intelligent or advanced. We simply never forgot that sometimes the old ways still have value, and that true progress comes from building bridges between different approaches. A deep voice rumbled from the assembly. Yet it was human weapons that proved decisive against the Ravagers. It was General Kvax, his scales gleaming as he rose to address the chamber. We had dismissed kinetic weapons as primitive, forgetting that the laws of physics themselves are the most ancient and reliable weapons of all. But those weapons would never have been effective without Confederation technology to enhance them. Sarah countered. It was the combination that made the difference, and that's the real lesson we should take from all this. She turned to address the entire assembly. The Ravagers were powerful because they could adapt, but they could only adapt along a single path, their bioorganic technology. We proved stronger because we could adapt in multiple ways, combining different technologies and strategies in ways they couldn't predict. Maya stepped forward, holding up a holographic display. We're already seeing the benefits of this approach. The new hybrid ships we're building incorporate multiple redundant systems, energy weapons and kinetic weapons, quantum computers and analog backups, biological components, and mechanical ones. They're not just more powerful, they're more resilient because they don't rely on a single approach to solve problems. And that, Vex Terry added, is why we're not just adding Earth to the Confederation. We're reorganizing our entire research and defense structure around this principle of technological integration. Every member species brings unique perspectives and approaches. It's time we started truly taking advantage of that diversity. Sarah nodded. The Ravagers will return. They're out there, adapting and evolving. But next time, we'll be ready. Not because we have better weapons or stronger shields, but because we've learned to adapt faster than they can, by working together. As she looked out over the assembly, Sarah saw not the dismissive, condescending faces that had greeted humanity's first contact, but partners and allies. The Confederation had changed, just as humanity had. They had all learned that true civilization wasn't about abandoning the old ways for the new, but about finding the wisdom to know when each approach had value. We stand at a turning point, she concluded. The Ravagers forced us to question our assumptions about technology and progress. In doing so, they gave us something invaluable. The recognition that strength lies not in uniformity, but in diversity, not in rigid advancement along a single path, but in the ability to combine different paths in new and unexpected ways. After the ceremony, Sarah found herself back on the bridge of the Eternal Radiance, now permanently assigned as her command. The ship hummed with power from its hybrid systems, a perfect fusion of human and Confederation technology. Through the viewport, she could see Earth ships and Confederation vessels moving in formation, their crews training together, learning from each other. Maya joined her at the viewport, holding a tablet displaying their latest research results. The quantum cascade effect has been fully stabilized, she reported. We're implementing it across the fleet. And look at this, some of the younger Confederation scientists are actually studying old human mechanical engineering texts. They say understanding the basics helps them think about energy manipulation in new ways. Sarah smiled. And how many human engineers are now studying quantum physics? Every one of them, Maya laughed. We're all students again, and teachers too. It's exactly what we needed. As if to emphasize her point, an alert sounded, not an alarm, but a notification. Another Ravager signal had been detected, far out in unexplored space. But this time, they were ready. This time, they faced the threat not as humans or Confederation members, but as a unified force that took strength from its differences rather than trying to eliminate them. All stations, Sarah commanded, prepare for departure. We have work to do. The Eternal Radiance moved out, leading a fleet that represented the best of both civilizations. They had earned each other's respect not through words but through action, proving that sometimes the greatest advances come not from moving forward, but from being willing to look back and find value in what others had dismissed as obsolete. As they entered quantum space, Sarah Chen knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The age of isolation was over. The future belonged to those who could adapt, innovate, and most importantly, cooperate. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not by following the expected path, but by showing that there were always new paths to be found, if you were willing to look for them.